Back third down on the 8. In trouble. Got a block behind him. Going to throw and a run. Complete to the 25, to the 30. Lindsey's got 35, 40. Lindsey's got 45, 50, 45, 40. Run, Lindsey. 25, 20, 50, 10, 5.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Dogs Down South. It's Tuesday night, and we are live talking about all things Georgia football. I'm going to talk a little bit about G-Day wrap-up, talk about some breaking news out of Athens, who's on campus right now, a little draft watch coming up, draft Thursday night, so that'll be pretty cool to check out the draft and see what's going on with that. Also going to talk depth charts after G-Day, so it'll be a fun show tonight. I'm going to add my good friend Bobby Ryals coming on in 1 second. There we are, Bobby. What's up, Bobby? How are you, man?
I'm good, my man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. It's gonna be a fun night, man. I was telling everyone we're gonna talk a little bit of breaking news. So we'll kick it off with that, man. Jaden Rashada, man, is on campus in Athens as we speak. A lot of people are asking, like, what does Jaden Rashada mean to this quarterback room? Kirby's never shied away from talking about how he wants 4 scholarship quarterbacks. I think he wants to continue to push that crew. We all know that Beck pretty much has the starting position in the bag, but we also know that Gunner has experienced a lot of growth by being pushed and running the practice squad, things of that nature. And so with Puglisi and the injury, what can Jaden Rashada bring to Georgia? Obviously, Bobby, speaking to that a little bit, obviously Jaden Rashada was a big Florida commit at one time, big NIL story, took some money a while back. It kind of got mixed up. He ended back out at Arizona, got hurt. What do you know about Jaden Rashada?
Yeah, I know he was a highly sought after quarterback. I know a lot of my buddies that are Florida fans were really, really upset and didn't have a whole lot of good to say about him when they felt like he was like kind of take the money and run, right? Like, and it was just he just followed the money, right? And that's always kind of the thing you wonder, right? Like talent, it's there, but mentality, right? Like, is this guy going to come in? Will he be okay? Because he's not going to start, right?
Right.
He's not going to start. You've got your man is Carson Beck, and looks like solid number 2 is Gunner Stockton. So is he realistic on the expectations, right? Or does he say, you know what, I don't care, I'm coming in to compete, right? Is he that kind of guy? Because if he's that kind of guy, I'm all for it. If I'm him, I don't come to Georgia.
Right.
I mean, I understand, the winning mentality and things like that going on there, but if I'm a guy, I'm not going to come where I already know I'm 3rd at best on the depth chart. And I've already played it. I already had a year of eligibility gone. So that's kind of where my mind is with him. If we get him, hey, we'll see what he may be used for something else. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and I mean, Rashada was an interesting. He gained his 5th star a couple weeks before he all that kind of struck with NIL, and that was kind of when NIL was coming in. And interesting kid. He definitely has some wheels. About 6'3", 6'4", $185, and got a pretty good arm. I thought he was going to do really well out in Arizona State. Had a really great spring, had a couple of good games, had an injury, and then he gets tucked in the roster, right? And then, used to that was prime time to come in and just sit, learn, and then be ready for next year, right? But now it's like you got this portal, you got NIL, you got all these things that can get you to somewhere else to get on a roster real quick. Now, he might be thinking, let's come to Georgia. Let's do the route of he's seen what can happen if I come to Georgia. I sit behind a Carson Beck. and then I come in and then I learn the ropes and then I play. And healthy competition. I mean, I guess he's thinking, well, if I go somewhere else and just get on the field, I might still be unhappy because we've seen it in basketball. Really, I mean, really as of late in basketball, it's like you see some of these players going to teams and they go deep in the playoffs and they average 15, 20 points, and then they hit the portal. And it's like, I don't know if that's because they kind of built their resume to go get seen somewhere else. I know Georgia's experienced a lot this year, but it just kind of gets a different mind frame around what's going on with players nowadays. And so with Rashada, I don't know what's going through his mind, but my thing to look at is what does Rashada get from it? And I think maybe he's seen I think he's seen the other side of it, and he's like, maybe I got a better chance of coming and get developed. Maybe he just hasn't seen that change in his game, and maybe he wants to get developed and come to Georgia and sit, learn, and regardless, I mean, I hope he's not coming to throw some good numbers up and then go, well, here I am, and maybe I can go grab some money somewhere else if he is a money guy. But it'll be interesting. It's interesting because, Kirby doesn't play the NIL game. He doesn't play the highest bidder game. So it's interesting to see what he will bring to it. So we'll see how that visit goes. I haven't heard any like early news where he showed up on campus and was there like a few hours and committed and things of that nature. So I do know that in the downtime officially, Kirby's already signing up for some golf tournaments that I see. So we're definitely getting towards our down period right now after G Day. But if you're just now joining us, welcome everyone. I do see right now on Dogs Down South Facebook page, for some reason, StreamYard is not flying to that site. So if you are on right now, if you're following my main Facebook page and then Dogs Down South on YouTube to catch the live tonight, that would be where you go. If you have not done so, go to YouTube or Facebook, preferably YouTube, hit that follow button. And we're going to try to work our way towards 1,000 followers over on YouTube. That would be helpful. Hit the like and follow button. Bobby, we got Draft Watch, right? Draft's coming up Thursday night. A lot of dogs expecting to hear their name called. We maybe have one or two that could fly out in the first round. We've seen that a lot in the past few years. But as we look at it, let's look at Brock Bowers. Like, what do you think about Brock? I'm hearing everything from 6 to 10. I mean, it looks like he's pretty much going to be top 15. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, he's definitely first day guy. Top 10. I don't see him dropping below 10. If he'd been healthy, like probably goes as the highest tight end ever.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Like I really wish we could have seen him completely healthy for his whole time there, just to see what kind of numbers he could have put up.
Right.
But Brock is a beast. Like he's an anomaly, man. He's just kind of his own kind of player. But I saw, I think it was NFL.com. Their mock draft says that he's number 9. I think it was. I shared with you to the Colts. Because of their trade with Chicago. So I don't know, whoever's getting him, they're getting a great player, and I hope he can stay healthy because I am just I think he's gonna go down as one of the best tight ends in the history of the game. He was at Georgia, and I think he'll do some of the same thing in the NFL if he can stay healthy, right? That's a position that takes a lot of toll on you. So we'll see.
I agree. I think Brock's going to, I've heard 9. I've heard the Tennessee. I've heard the Jets. I've heard the Colts. Mel Kiper's got the Jets. That'd be kind of cool to see a healthy Aaron Rodgers throwing to Brock Bowers, man. That would be cool. But regardless of the fact, I think what Brock brings to you is he's one of that. I think he could have, and I think, if he would have had injuries, he kind of reminds me of like a Jeremy Shockey type guy. Speed, very elusive, great hands, understands what he needs to do to block at that level. You're getting a complete package there, and you're getting like a gritty leader. You're getting a guy who's not scared to compete. I do think that he'll be expected to come in and play very, very early. I think the tight end role in general is getting much more interesting. You look at what could the Ravens have been with a healthy Mark Andrews this year? With the difference in the play calling from from Baltimore getting a new offensive coordinator from our very own Georgia Bulldog team. So, I mean, when you look at that, the tight end is changing so much. It's more of a hybrid slot guy. You
Right.
get lined up in a lot of different places. It's not old school, and Andrews definitely still kind of is an old school kind of tight end. But I just see what it can do to really open up some things that's going on with their receivers, and I think he can be that type of guy. Wherever he goes, he's going to be an immediate impact. But I'd be interested to see what he can do with Aaron Rodgers. And you got Amarius Mims. I think he's the second guy that comes off if I'm guessing the first round, that comes off the table in the first round. I'm hearing Eagles. The Eagles love the dogs. It's kind of like the dogs JV.
Yeah.
But and then I'm hearing Green Bay as well. But Amarius Mims is going to be a great pickup. I think another great offensive line pickup. He gutted it out. Amarius did. He had a lot of ups and downs at Georgia, but the way he finished is what counted. And I think what it takes to be an offensive lineman in the NFL. He learned that the hard way the last 2 years at Georgia. So I think he's got a good head on his shoulders now. I think he's in great shape. He looked great at what he did do at the combine. So I think Amarius comes off in the first couple rounds. What do you think about Amarius? I remember that kid when we were recruiting him from. I think where was he at? He was in Cotton somewhere, Bleckley County. Yeah, I remember we were recruiting him, man, and the kid was ginormous, and all he did was blossom more. But what do you know about Amarius Mims?
Yeah, and he's got that big baby face with that big smile, man.
Mm-hmm.
I like Amarius Mims, man. I've seen some projections have him slipping to second round, but if somebody gets him at the second round, that's a steal, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He's solid. I mean, he really came and did his thing, and if he had been healthy too, man, like who knows what happens in those last few games. But I don't really know what the rest of the linemen from the other schools look like, right? So that's why maybe they're grading him a little lower than some of those other guys. I don't know, but he is a heck of a player.
Yeah.
And whoever gets him will be a steal. I think he'll have a lengthy career in the NFL.
Yeah.
He can do big things. He's just going to continue to get better.
Yeah, I agree.
He's still young,
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I just think he's one of the top. If I'm just being honest, he's top 3. Last year, I felt was a big offensive line pull. I mean, Joe Alt is the guy that keeps coming up in the top 5. But I think Amarius is one of those top 3. It's not a very heavy offensive line. Not saying that in no pun intended, but it's not a heavy. I see a lot of skill players in that first round, and I think there's a lot of teams that will go take a chance there. There's so many great wide receivers coming out. Obviously, this is another year of the quarterback. You're going to probably see quarterback pick 3 times in the first 3 picks. I think Chicago is going to try to figure out and get their life right again at quarterback, and I think that a lot of people are saying that they see obviously the Washington come out and get a quarterback, and then you're going to see maybe the Vikings trade up and grab. I'm hearing trade up and grab Drake May, even though I think the Patriots have something to say about that, because do they want to sit there? Because you got JJ McCarthy in there, and we could go draft all night long, but I do think that when you look at this draft, it's skill player based, and I think people will take a little bit. It's got a lot of great defense in it too, so. But I think the Dogs are going to be well represented. Some names that I see could possibly. I am seeing one more name that could lurk first round, second round, and that's our man Lab McConkey. Would love to see him come off the board first round. I've seen this could be deadly crazy, but I've seen the Chiefs taking him in the last pick of the first round, going for a wide receiver, not knowing what Rice is. What was going to happen to him. He's in some trouble, and obviously Kadarius Toney. He had his little scares of the drops this year. So I would think Lab McConkey would fit in perfect with Patrick Mahomes, because you never have to worry about Patty Mahomes talking about why can't we catch the ball anymore. That's the first thing that McConkey does. And after that, he worries about what else is coming. So I'm hoping to see Lad come off first round. He's worked his butt off. It would be a win. But let me show it.
Great combine. had a great combine and a good pro day. So, man, he's solid. I see him and I see like a Wes Welker kind of guy,
Yeah.
right? And just if you go back old school, like a Steve Tasker,
Right.
like those guys were something else. Like I think Ladd is going to be a legitimate slot guy, like a primary, like premier slot guy in the league.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, when I think about both Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, not a lot of talk. They just go out there and get the job done, right?
Yeah.
And just let the play on the field speak for itself. And if I'm an owner, right, I sit there and I look at that and I say, you know what, this guy's not going to get me in any trouble with his mouth, right? And so that matters too. I don't know, man. Like I feel like I would love to see those three go in the first round. Might get 1, 2, but it would be great to see all three.
Yeah. I can't even imagine. People are also talking about what happens if we have a lot of Georgia people on dogs boards out there. They're talking about what happens if Brock lands somewhere and somebody's like, man, what if you get that 1-2 punch and you get Ladd on the same team as Brock, man, and those guys are zigging and zagging.
Yeah,
man, that could be the story of the ages, man. Like,
yeah, that would be great. That would be awesome.
So cool.
It'd be great to see him somewhere, in Atlanta or something.
Dude, man, wherever they go. I mean, if they go as a combo, man, look out. But that would be a big story. Some other names that'll get called, we think, are obviously Kamari Lassiter. I've heard Falcons, which would be interesting. I've heard Panthers, which could be interesting. You could go from a team that grabs Kirk Cousins this year and is going to probably work on the defense a little bit in the draft. To the Panthers, who need a little bit of everything. They kind of went all in on their quarterback last year. Javon Bullard, I'm hearing, is one of the better safeties that's going to come out of this draft. Cedric Van Pran is going to be a really great center. I think, and Green Bay's getting into the Georgia DNA now, like the Eagles. But I think those are some names you'll see called early. I think those 6 names right there are at least 3-day, day 1, 2, or 3 picks. And then sleepers, you might can dive in if you think of anything else, Bobby. But I got Tyke on here. I think Tyke could be a late, 5th, 6th, 7th round. I mean, he really created it. His draft stock shot up with his play his senior year and fighting through an injury. And I'm looking at Eagles who might grab him because the Eagles love the dogs, and then I'm looking at the Bucks. So I wouldn't mind seeing him down here in a Bucks uniform. And then is there room for Dejon and Kendall? I'll let you speak into that. You got any sleepers, or what do you think about Tyke, Dejon, or Kendall? You think you see them come off the board?
Yeah, so I think Tyke gets picked up. Dejon, he's going to be a late guy. Maybe he might, just really dependent, because running backs just aren't it's not a running back league like it used to be, right? Like they're making less and less money and they're all arguing about that. But Dejon is an elusive guy who I think if he picks up a little bit more weight, he's shifty enough to make an impact. He could wind up an undrafted free agent. Mm-hmm. I think Kendall Milton winds up being taken 6th, 7th round. The big thing with Kendall Milton is that he wasn't healthy for much of his time in Athens, but probably the last 3 games he was, and he showed out.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. And he toted the rock, early on he had some fumble issues, right? So ball security was an issue. I think he's worked through that, but he just, I would love to see how much he squats and leg presses with those tree trunks he's got, because the dude just, if his feet are on the ground, he is moving forward. Yeah. And so would love to see somebody pick him up and see him do well, just because he wasn't healthy enough to get some of those early round looks. Yeah. But he did play, in several games when he was healthy, that he looked really good, and I think he might be that sleeper who goes late, but winds up working his way into a rotation real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about a guy who benefited from playing the bowl game.
Yep.
He looked really, really, he ran with some purpose. He wanted the scouts to see that knee was good. I think we do an incredible job. Our sports medicine department at UGA does an incredible job with our athletes and injuries and things of that nature. And it's shown. I can't, and we're going to get into it in a minute, but I cannot wait to see, number one, how he looks in the NFL when he is full blast, because he ran with a purpose against Florida State. Had a great game. I think everybody had a great game against Florida State. No jab to the Seminoles because you weren't playing with every card you had in that one. But I think he had a lot to prove, and he got it on tape, and it's going to benefit him. And as we dive into our second part of the session tonight and kind of get away from the draft, and we look at, now that spring practice has ended and we look at depth charts. So what are depth charts going to start looking like, and how are you going to look coming out of this, and what can Dog fans expect to see when we take the field versus Clemson? And we're also sitting here and officially all spring games are done. So probably in the next few weeks when we get on here, we're going to look at some power rankings coming out of spring and how we think people have looked. I know Feinbaum's already made some of his picks, but something that sticks out to me after injury is to be like, I know that our sports medicine department does such a great job with our athletes, but if they can get that much out of Kendall Milton, and it's a different injury, don't get me wrong, patella tendon's a different injury with Branson, but what can Branson bring to the table when he hits, I say spring, but summer workouts and things of that nature? I think he could have probably done some things during spring, but there was no reason to really do that. But his first interview out of the box is, don't worry about the time frame. Just worry about when I get there. When I get there, I'm gonna make, I'm gonna come in with a vengeance. And that guy, man, you talk about one guy that ran with a purpose before he got injured. That's Branson. That's Branson. And so I'm interested to see how he's going to mix in with the offense. Let's look at the offense first. I know I got defense down here, but offense is probably a little bit more clear cut than defense right now. But let's start with the running back position and quarterback position. Obviously, quarterback. I mean, I think you're going to see Carson as QB1. Gunner, I think, has solidified himself as QB2. Interesting to see if we pull the quarterback out of the portal and who that is. If it's Rashada, great. But I'm also interested to see if Puglisi gets over his injury. I think him being that guy to possibly run the scout team and do some things of that nature and kind of take on Gunner's role that he's had the past few years will be something that will give him a lot of opportunity to grow. Now, at the running back position, we can kind of turn this around. We can talk through this, Bobby. I'm seeing Rod Robinson and Trevor Etienne as kind of that. That's kind of how Kirby's held his cards the last few years. You've seen a Dejan and Kendall, kind of a lightning, thunder and lightning type thing. And I think you're going to see it again this year with Trevor and Rod. You're going to see a little Rod, which would have been a little Kendall, and you're going to see a little Trevor, which would have been equivalent to a Dejan. I think Kirby likes this. What do you think about it? You think you see Trevor and Rod right there coming out of the box against Clemson first out?
Yeah, I think that's what you see first out. But I'm telling you, as soon as Branson Robinson is healthy, it's like a big block Chevy with wide tires hunting a gas pump, right? Like this dude is gonna be full speed ahead, like low to the ground, run you over kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
He is. I mean, I look at him and all I can think of is Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
Right, just the size and the athleticism and enough speed to run by you, but he'd much rather run over you.
Yeah.
So I think you've got ETN's your guy with the breakaway speed, right?
Yeah.
And then I think he gets a bulk of the carries. I don't think you see him in on third down much because he still needs to work on blocking. Like if you need to pass it or for that short yardage, he's probably not going to be the guy.
Right.
But that's why you talk about the combo you talked about, right? Him and Robinson. Right. So I think you've got a little bit of that whole thunder and lightning kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and there's it can get very, very interesting if you can get Branson in the mix, and then you can start looking at what you got to see with, when Lil Cook was here. Cook transitioned a little bit more into how can we put him into spots where he can be just we get him the ball, right? I mean, we line Cook
yep,
up in the slot, we line Cook up in, a lot of different formations to where we could get him the ball in space.
yep,
Because when you look at getting Branson back and you look at getting a healthy, Rod, I think Rodder Robinson looked incredible during spring. And then you start mixing in. I mean, you got to think, man, when you're third guy, which last year, I mean, we look at how much health we had at the beginning of the year. I mean, with Dejan not there, and I'm sorry, Dejan was there, but he was nursing some injuries. And when Cash saw some of those carries, a lot of those carries, and then Kendall's not there, and then you look at the room that you had, and you can respect more the fact of Bobo and how he called some of those games. And I know we give Bobo a lot of crap sometimes about third and Bobo, but he really did call a really incredible season last
yeah,
year. And I'm knocking on wood because I know what my Georgia fans are thinking. They're like, okay, if he can tag two together, I'll be a believer. I'm a believer in Bobo, man. I think he did a great job. I think he learned a lot from Munkin.
hmm
Kirby's very intentional about what he wanted Bobo to do, and it's not that he wanted to, don't go and be Bobo, but go and see what we want to do at Georgia, and that's they're no good to us if we're not getting the playmakers the
yeah,
football. And that's exactly what Munkin did when he got to Baltimore. And that's what changed Baltimore. It's like, it's no good if I have these players and they don't see the ball. So how
yeah,
do you get to the ball?
yep,
And so that could be elusive. That could be dangerous if you're looking at Branson, you're looking at ETN, you're looking at Rod. I mean, you never know what's coming at you. And then you don't even, I think that's what Andrew Paul saw. That's why he hit the portal. But then you still got Cash back there who's seen some carries, who made some great catches out of the backfield last year. You still got Nate Frazier, who's not even on campus right now. You still got Chauncey Bowens, who took some carries in spring. I mean, it's just it's one after the other, man. The running back room is back to RBU, and I think it looks incredible as far as quarterback and running back. And I think as we look in wide receiver too, let's talk wide receiver a little bit. Me and you we've agreed on some things and disagree, but that's good. So that makes it healthy. Just looking between X slot and Z, I think we're pretty much going to see, and Kirby, we're going to rotate these a lot. We saw a lot of great things from Colby Young, but right now I think at the X you'll see Ra Ra, at the slot you'll see Dom, and at the Z you'll see Dylan, and that right there, man, you can argue with me right now, but that and you mix in Colby Young with that and Anthony Evans, that could be one of the most talented wide receiver groups in the country. I mean, I see Dylan Bell and Dom in the top 5 wide receiver. I mean, easy. If with Carson Beck by that, what do you think about the wide receiver core this year?
yeah. I don't know if we'll be number one in the nation, right? Ohio
Right.
State has some talented guys. Texas has some pretty good receivers. So, but we are not far off, right? And depending on the type of year that Carson has, how much protection we could give him, it could flip. It could flip. You talk about Dylan Bell, and we were just talking about running backs, right? And the guy is talented enough to get in the backfield and make plays, right? It wasn't like he was just a space filler. He accomplished some things.
Right.
And so just an athlete, but to see him out there at his position, right? And just, when you have a running game,
Yeah.
some good things can happen out
Yeah.
wide, right?
Yeah.
Because those guys get in there and they got to stack the box to slow down the run game, and then boom, over the top, right?
Yeah.
Or your mid range stuff. So we didn't have that, for about half of the season,
Yeah.
until those guys came back. And so you look at the offensive numbers, and they still turned out really good, but how good would they be with a good running back tandem that's healthy? So,
That's scary. Very scary. Very,
yeah,
very scary,
but,
because I agree with
you
you. We didn't
you
have a lot to
mentioned
lean on there
you
last year.
mentioned those three guys, right? And you talk about position order. You think, well, first string, second string, third string, but like with Georgia, man, on the receiver crew, I'm more like 1A, 1B.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's not 1, 2. It's 1A, 1B. We had
Yeah.
talented receivers last year, even though we've always fought the injury bug at that position. If we can stay healthy and you can rotate those guys in and out, one of the ones that I'm super excited about just to see how much impact he has when he's playing daily is Anthony Evans.
Yeah.
The dude is fast and he goes to get the ball.
Yeah.
So excited to see the receivers are going to be phenomenal. Lawson Lucky's getting better at tight end.
Yeah.
You got Delt, the new kid, the Jurovich or whatever his name is.
Yeah. Yurcevich will be here soon. Yes.
Yeah.
So, I'm interested to see what he'll bring.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously Kirby went out and got him because he felt like there was a need there, right? And so, and if anything, just to push that number one guy, so he don't get comfortable. So.
Yeah. And you look at the depth. You said something about the depth, and I totally agree with you, man. I mean, you look at Dom and Anthony, Michael Jackson kind of goes. We're going to use him, and we're going to use him in different ways. He came over from USC.
Yeah.
London Humphrey's name not called a lot in spring, but I think don't let that get under your skin, because London Humphreys is an incredible athlete, but this is their time to learn the system. They're here and they're learning the system. They have London and Arian Smith kind of in the same boat right now, and Arian Smith's been here 4 years trying to learn the system, and poor guy, man. Like, I don't know. They put a lot of effort into Arian, and I honestly thought you could have possibly, if there was one name I thought that might be called outside of the regulars, I thought Arian might go to the portal. Just from conversations and just, but then again, I look at Arian too, and, he's still got a lot of threatening things that he can do. He's incredibly fast, but does Carson trust him to use that shot on him? Because we're going to have a lot of opportunity this year between tight end, between wide receivers, between run. I mean, Carson is going to have a plethora of ways to move the ball down the field. And so I'm excited about the offense. When you look at the line, I know this is something that you said you weren't very impressed on from G-Day. Who knows for a lot of reasons, but when you look at the line, I mean, same thing. I think Kirby's compared this to a 1A and a 1B type thing as far as the receivers, But you look at, projected Ernest Green, at a left tackle, you're looking at Dylan Fairchild, left guard. Jared Wilson I think Jared Wilson was everything he was hyped up to be. He was everywhere. Kid's fast. He's a center, dude. I mean, he's pulling around and he's running with some of the wide receivers, man. Tate Ratledge adds a lot of depth. I'm even seeing leadership, and I'm even seeing Monroe Freeling's name come up and pushing Xavier Truss in those tackle positions. I think you will see Xavier, but Monroe Freeling is the guy that's pushing a lot of people on that line. So he's probably your first guy to weave in and weave out. And I'm hearing great things about Drew Bobo at center. Crazy enough, that name should sound familiar. Micah Morris, I'm hearing, is just he's looking to hit people, which is incredible. So
he's an old school knock your head off guy.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just hoping it was an off day. But I will say the line. I like where we're going with the line. I would even say that post my man, who's my boy at Arkansas, who's there now,
Sam Pittman.
I was concerned. Stacey Searles does a great job. He coached the line at Georgia a while back, but as I heard the story about why he actually left, it had zero to do with his productivity when he was here. It had everything to do with, I think he was chasing that avenue of could he become a head coach. And so it was cool to kind of read that story, because now he's comfortable. Kind of, it reminds me a little bit of a Matt Luke. Matt Luke was a head coach, then he came back, and I think Matt Luke's just now getting back in the game. But crazy enough, I think he took the job at North Carolina, which was Stacey Searles' old job at North Carolina. So it's really kind of cool how those three things have come about. So let's move real quick. Let's move to defense. This is the one that's a little bit trickier. So let's talk D-line. Obviously, Nazir Stackhouse comes off as one of my top 10 returning players for Georgia this year. He's going to be a guy that I've heard has gotten a lot more healthy He was, if you follow Nazir on his TikTok, he's a very interesting guy. They have this thing, and if you're not hitting weight over the winter break, man, you have to go to yoga classes in the morning. And he was showing some of these 6 a.m. yoga classes, man. And this guy is not only a really funny guy, but to watch him do some of this yoga, man, was hilarious. But he looks like he's in better shape. I think the line is going to be improved. I hope the line is going to be improved. We weren't terrible last year, but I just hope it's improved. I'm looking at Xavier McLeod. We got him from South Carolina. I think he'll be in their rotation. He kind of stepped a little bit above Jamal Jarrett. I think the tackle, Warren Brinson, will lock that down. You got Jordan Big Baby Hall. You're deep there. Christian Miller. And then you didn't see Tyrion Ingram Dawkins at all. He had that injury, but he has provided some great depth at the defensive line. So I like what I see. Ajonye looked good. What do you think about the defensive line, Bobby?
I think the depth is going to be outstanding, and I think it's going to be a benefit, right? If you can keep those big guys rotating in there, and fresh, and you've got that many guys that have the potential to cause havoc plays, that's what you want. You want guys that are going to be disruptive, right? And if you look back at the defense last year, we just didn't have enough disruptive plays. We didn't have those one or two guys who were in the backfield every single play. And I think that was the difference in that Alabama game, right? Was just not really getting back there and keeping Milroe uncomfortable the whole time, right? There were spurts, right? But there were also times where he had plenty of time to do what he wanted to do. So that's going to be the thing. That's my question is, do we have one, maybe two guys, probably need two. If you go back and you look at when you had Jordan Davis, right? And Jalen Carter, right? I mean, just two guys that were there. And even before Jalen Carter really stepped in, you had who was the other defensive guy that was just ridiculous up front.
So you had Jordan, you had Jalen, you have
Devontae Wyatt.
Devontae Wyatt was another big body we had up there.
Troublemaker, son. He would cause, and that's the thing. Like, if you've got one outstanding guy, right, he's going to draw some double teams. They're going to scheme around him, and that frees up. And you got to have that one, like I said, that 1A, that 1B.
Yeah.
And when you've got that, and you can get in the backfield and throw the quarterback off and change that game plan. That's exactly what you want to do. So I'm just want to see if we've got that. The offensive, you made a good point. The offensive line and the defensive line, both, you're really probably not going to find out what you got in spring because you're not really trying to knock the quarterback out. You're trying to keep him healthy. You're trying to keep all your guys healthy. So you're running a very vanilla offense. And so excited to see what that turns. We'll see at Clemson, because they're going to let the big dogs eat, right?
Yeah,
so
I agree.
We'll see exactly what happens.
I agree. Jonathan Slocum, welcome, man. Thanks for joining tonight. Top 10 defense is what he commented. I agree, man. I was really, really impressed with the defense coming out of G-Day. I think that the key things I was looking at was secondary and defensive line. I don't know if we're done in the portal. I'm hearing some names still out there. I don't know. I mean, but I like what I see, and I like what we're doing, because some names you don't hear on there. You had here's another name that might be floating around that nobody's talking about a lot, and I saw him a lot at G-Day go under the radar. But Gabe Harris also looked really, really good on the defensive line. He's a guy that you're not hearing his name called a lot, but and then Ajonye had to grow up quick, and he did grow up quick. He made some plays. He was through that line a lot more as a freshman that was playing high school ball. This a little less than 6 months ago.
I watched him in high school. I watched him on the state championship games. Dude was disruptive, son. Disruptive. So that's what you want, man, and that's a mindset sometimes. And that's what you want. You want some big, mean guys, right, that work together to just say, we're gonna eat.
Yeah,
And that's
I
what you're
like
looking
him,
for.
man. I like him a lot. We had a lot of people hop in the room the last 2-3 nights when we were live talking about saying his name, and I like him. He's a good-looking kid.
Yeah.
He definitely could be the next game changer. And then the next group of people, I like this group the best. I think Fish said it last week when he was on. He was like, "I love our linebacker core. I think our linebackers are incredibly strong. You even add a name from the defensive line that is going to still have his hand on the ground a couple times because he's just too good not to mix him around. But Michael Williams kind of moves to that outside linebacker hybrid DN role, which he looked incredible. And then Chaz Chambliss can do some things for you. He's posted up on that defensive end spot where he can be very elusive, but he can cause some problems. But as well as the outside linebacker, I think Damon Wilson's coming along really great. I mean, there's guys like Sam and Pimba that they were 5-star recruits, man. They haven't broke the lineup yet because these guys are crazy good, man. And at the mic, you're looking at C.J. Allen, Justin
Dude's a
Williams
stud.
in there as a
Yeah,
freshman.
another stud.
Yeah, it's just
Freshman.
like the linebacker room is stupid crazy, man. Like
Yeah.
Smile will start obviously weaving back in, and then Raylan's in there.
Jalen Wilson. Yeah.
Jelon. I mean, I love our linebackers, bro. They're going to
Yeah.
be fun to watch, and we are 2-3 deep at the
Yeah.
linebackers. So you could do, I guess what you're seeing, and I think what's going to happen is, the great thing is you get Schumann getting in there with the linebackers. You got great stuff going on with Trey Scott with the development, and then you've add. I mean, I can't. I'm fine with the second. I mean, I don't want to eat these words, but I'm fine with the secondary because I saw what we went out and got for the secondary. And T-Rob, man, is already making moves. I think they're already growing. I loved what I saw from the secondary. I love seeing C.J. Allen drop back and just make cornerback type play.
Insane. That was sick, bro. Like that play, I was like, how did he even get there? Much less get there and have the athletic ability to pick that pass off.
Yeah.
Insane.
So like I think when you look at this, Bobby, there could see so much you can do with this because I can see CJ and Justin Williams, he's such an everywhere freshman, so fast, right? Damon Wilson, you see a Chris Cole and a Walker, like but we haven't even talked about Jalen Walker, bro. He's that Javon Curse type. I mean, he's the havoc maker that Kirby holds in his back pocket, right? These are guys that you can just go, they can drop back in coverage, they can cover receivers, man, but they can also blitz you, and they're going to be a problem. That linebacker group is going to be a problem, and I think Slocum, you said it, man. Top 10 defense, man. I'm going farther than that, bro. I think this is top 5 defense, and the only defenses I'm bringing out we haven't done our power rankings for beginning of the year and everything. But I think the only defenses that really step out to me that can probably put themselves up there right now coming off of spring is probably Ohio State. I would say maybe Alabama's in there somewhere, although I have not seen this new scheme they're working with. Texas is probably in there somewhere. And then maybe in Iowa because they're always good at defense because they depend on the defense to put them in situations so they can hopefully
that's all
score.
they have.
Once or twice. So I see top 5 in our in our back pocket. And then when you look at the secondary, Bobby, like you look and you go, man, we lost so much, but this secondary is so deep, man, and it's got a lot of question marks and unanswered things because we didn't see Malachi, we didn't see a lot of Smile, which we had to move people around a lot. But you look at Malachi Starks, you look at, is Dan Jackson really in there? Because we know Dan knows the scheme, and he had something to prove at G-Day, man. He was taking heads off. But you also see what's interesting to me, and I love what I saw out of Janelle Aguero. But what I really liked was I love what I saw out of KJ Bolden. But a lot of these 247 sports guys have KJ buried a little bit. What do you think? I mean, and I don't want to go too far on it, but I will say that KJ's a talent that you can't keep off the field for too long, man, because we are in the business of keeping NIL and people happy, right? And we know that KJ is a staple in that secondary for a long time to come. So how does Kirby get KJ involved in this if he's buried a little bit at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, well, he's only buried because he probably is trying to figure out Kirby's way of doing things, right?
Right.
He's got 3 months to really dig in, learn all of the schemes that Kirby wants to do. He might be buried now, but he will be resurrected soon. Like he's not staying buried long, man. Dude is uber talented, and man, I mean, a bunch of, I'm gonna tell you, like, we have my worry with this defense is if any of them bounce, just because we have so much talent, right? All of those linebackers that you name could walk right out of the door and start at many other SEC programs now. Right now, right? So how committed are they to the culture? How committed are they to the process, to one another? So that's why that kind of stuff is important. But you mentioned Jonathan Slocum earlier. I want to give a shout out. We actually go to church together. So
nice. Yes, welcome, Jonathan. Thanks for joining. Yeah, if you haven't done so, I think Bobby is sharing his page tonight. You're happy to share this podcast with anybody. If you don't know, 24 hours from this, let everybody know. If they don't catch the live, we are on Apple Podcasts immediately 24 hours later. So if you're riding into work or you're coming home from work, you can catch us. And so we're getting towards what we call the quiet point and before the storm of college football season, which we're excited about. But make sure and go like and share on Facebook, but definitely YouTube as well. YouTube is also a place where we go live. It's a platform we use, and we'd love to get likes and follows up on that side over there. And share, tell your friends. So appreciate everybody joining tonight. Cornerbacks, this is the last thing we're going to kind of talk about tonight. And, it's one of those things I didn't see a lot out of the cornerbacks. I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. Sometimes you like to sit there and go, well, you didn't hear a lot about them because there wasn't a lot of times where they were kind of imposed on a lot, But I do know that one thing I didn't hear a lot of that you heard a lot of last season is Dalen Everett being picked on a little bit. I did think he grew up a little bit in G-Day. I think you could tell he was a little more confident. I think Humphrey and him meshed pretty well together on that first team defense. I did see Ellis a little bit as well. He is as advertised, but still needs to. I think we're going to say the same things. I think he needs to look at how Kirby likes to do things. He needs to make sure he knows how to get lined up. He needs to make sure he knows what we're doing, what we're checking to. A little early for Ellis, but he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. And I think by the time, you look at Humphrey, you look at Everett, you look at all of these guys. Remember now, Kamari was the only household name last year. There was a lot of people going, who's going to take that other side? Humphrey was over there a little bit when Dalen was getting, it was getting kind of thrown on a lot. And Humphrey was over there, got hurt. Dalen was back. You saw a little bit of everybody over there at corner opposite of Kamari because nobody threw to that 40% of the field last year. So the names are great. We just don't know how they fit into the puzzle and who's going to be the actual guys between Dalen, Julian Humphrey. I've heard Daniel Harris had a good spring. Obviously Ellis. I've heard Chris Peel's name. DeMello Jones is a name we heard. Talented freshman, and then Andre Evans, talented freshman we heard. So a lot of depth over there, but we lost a lot from over there, right? So what do you think about the cornerbacks?
That's going to be, to me, probably we'll see how well they develop, right? Like that's going to me, that's probably if I look at our defense and I say, hey, where do we have the biggest need to prove something? That's where it is. Yeah. Right. Because Kamari last year left. He's gone. Everett disappointed. Like I don't know any other way to say it, man. Like he disappointed me last season. Right. He was a young guy. I think, when Keely Ringo first came out, there were a few games I was like, man, Keely Ringo, he was hyped up, but he didn't show me a whole lot. And then my boy buckled down and was phenomenal. But you've got a lot of guys out there. If Everett slips, do you see one of these young guys? Do you see Robinson come take his place, right? Do you see DeMello Jones step in? Do you see Harris, right? If I'm being honest, you had Kamari out there, And if it weren't for injury, I would have had Humphrey out on the other side,
Yeah.
right? Because when he came in, he played really well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really well, especially for a first-year guy. And now he's in his second year. If he's healthy, you might have him lined up on one side opposite, So it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out. But I think we'll be okay. But if we've got anything to prove, that's probably my 1A. And then my 1B is, of course, do the guys on the defensive line get it done? But safety, man, we are sitting on a gold mine out there, in my opinion.
Yeah, Buku's a talent, man. Buku of talent back there. This defense, I mean, I think as I come off of looking at what I wanted to see from spring, I was excited because I saw a lot of things. I saw a young, no Malachi Starks, no Smile, young group of linebackers, young secondary, defensive line that needed to improve. And I didn't see a lot of running backs having stellar days. And I didn't see Carson Beck nor Gunner having just incredibly stellar days. And we're going to talk about more next week, but we're going to look at power rankings coming out of all the SEC teams. We're going to get a little bit more well-rounded next week. And coming out of spring, we're going to talk about over and under wins next year that we think Vegas might, or is Vegas right or wrong. We're also going to look at power rankings coming out of spring and see after, everybody goes in, has their spring game, and what do we think they're coming out of, and do we think that they are who they say they are type thing. But I will tell you, I was happy to see that because I know what our offense is going to be able to do, and I was happy to see that they had a hard time doing it in some areas, regardless of if our playbook was very vanilla. You only saw about 30% of our playbook. However, I love the physicality from the cornerbacks. I loved the secondary being able to line up correctly. And granted, you do know some of the plays that are coming at you. They go against that first team offense a lot in practice. Still, it's one of the best offenses in college football, and you're not going to see a slouch offense nor a slouch defense. I don't even, you know what? I left these guys out, and I do think they are one of the top. They're definitely a top 10 defense. But we're going to see a really good defense when we go to Mercedes-Benz and open up the season against Clemson. That's a really good defense.
Yeah,
they're very young. They added some incredible talent, just like Georgia did, to an already stellar
Sammy
cast.
Brown, man, I hated to see him go there, dude. I was hoping he would come to UGA.
Yeah, he's a sleeper. He's a sleeper that's gonna fit right into that defense. So I'm not worried, but I will say you're not coming out. More questions on offense for Clemson than defense coming into Mercedes-Benz. But yeah, man. So looking forward to as we shut down. Last thoughts on G-Day and things of that nature. We put spring football in the books, and we move into, once again, hopefully the portal goes gentle into that good night. And if we do anything, we gain something from it. I think one of the best things the SEC did in the portal was say, hey, you want to leave in spring, you can't go to the SEC without sitting out. And so that's helped a little bit of the craziness with the SEC. I think the guys you do see leaving are going somewhere else, whether it be somewhere they can get some playing time and get on film, or somewhere they can make a difference than another team that's making a championship run with the playoffs. So very interesting. But Bobby, it'll be really cool to talk about some other teams in the SEC maybe next week and talk about power rankings and over and unders and kind of see what we thought coming out of spring and getting ready to head into summer where we'll just be talking about, what's going on. I think what we can most do for the summer is get healthy and get those final lasting, lingering injuries like Malachi, Branson, Smile, things of that nature. Ryan Puglisi, get them healthy, get them out there on the field. Tyrion Ingrams-Dawkins, it's a tough name, man. Tyrion Ingrams-Dawkins, and get them out there on the field and see how that's 5 guys, man, that are not on the field that are going to add a lot of great depth to Georgia. But yeah, man. So final thoughts on the night, Bobby?
Yeah, man. When I think about Georgia and the football program where it's at, right? And I have to ask myself, have we flipped from a defensive powerhouse to an offensive powerhouse? Or are we really balanced? Last year, defense was down. Last year, we had more offense. We were, more prevalent on offense than we were defense. Does that play out this year? Or does the defense step up and go back to the defenses that Georgia's known for over the past 5, 5-6 years. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing as we wrap up spring and head into next season. That's kind of my big question. Are we now just an offensive powerhouse and just play enough defense to get by? Or is that defense stepping up and we see something that we just blown away with?
Yeah. I hope you're right about the offense and wrong about the defense, because
Right.
I like our defense, man. Like, I really like our defense. I'm trying not to be biased. I will tell you one thing I didn't say about the cornerbacks is very intriguing this year is Dante Moore over there coaching the cornerbacks.
Yeah.
Kirby did something different this year, and I think he knew, we always did great at corner, but we always I felt like lacked that just one-on-one intentional effort. And one thing I saw in spring, the storyline was that Dante was wearing a helmet during practice every day. I thought that was interesting. And even Kirby was like, I don't even know if some of this is legal. But man, he's in there with a helmet on, and they're talking about things, and they're getting between the ears. And I will tell you, that's something else that I'm looking forward to hearing stories from is, as soon as the season's over, they have a very strategic way of doing things. They have these skull sessions with players. They get these players together, and they're 8 groups of 8, 10, 12 players, and they have these skull sessions, and they learn about each other, and they grow around each other, and they start talking about how to be family. And some of these guys go on trips, and these wide receivers get with the quarterbacks, and they go off, and instead of partying hardy, and I hope they don't party hardy all summer, they're going places and spending time together and learning how everybody zigs and zags. And so I'm just looking forward to seeing how this team can mesh, because I think they had a very strong spring. I really do. And what's intriguing, even listening to myself say, there's 5 people that could be added to that roster that could be difference makers right now that weren't there. Branson Robinson, Dawkins. You look at Smile. You look at Puglisi back there. Just so many things there to add to already. And then you have some freshmen that aren't on campus yet. You got Nate Frazier and a couple guys who haven't even stepped foot on campus yet.
Yeah.
Nate Frazier's a big-time running back out of California that's going to be stepped in there. And look, man, if you get the system, you're in. That's how Kirby is. Like, if you're showing out and you know the system, like, you're in there. So very, very encouraged. So, Bobby, as always, thanks for joining me. Everybody that joined the show tonight, hope you got something great from it. Definitely chime in, ask questions. If you see this later on and want to pop questions in there, I go back and kind of check and answer them. We'll be live. We'll be 24 hours from now on Apple Podcasts. So if you didn't get it tonight, go grab it tomorrow. Check it out. Next week, we're going to be looking at power rankings and looking at over and unders for all the SEC teams going into next year and coming off of spring. So for myself and Bobby Ryals, thanks for joining Dogs Down South podcast. Till next time, go Dogs.
Go Dogs.